Hi and welcome to the screencast. I am Günther Obilchnik and today I will show you how you can easily create remote services in C++ using the AppliedInformatics remoting framework. The application that we're going to implement will be a very simple stock quotes server. To speed things up a little bit, I have already prepared a skeleton project. So what we have here is a very simple C++ class that provides a member function for obtaining a stock quote for a given stock symbol. For the implementation of the quote for member function, we are going to use the Yahoo Finance stock quote web service. This web service can be called quite easily. We just have to pass a special URI containing the stock symbol to the server and we get back the stock quote. For this purpose we are using the BocoNet HTTP client session and HTTP request and response classes. We're now going to test our stock quotes object, and for that purpose I have already created a skeleton application. So as you can see, here we are including our stock quotes header file. And now let's create an instance of the stock quotes class. And let's see if we can get a current stock quote for Google. So now let's build our application. Building was successful, and when we run our application we can see that we actually get the current stock quote for Google. Now that our stock quotes class works, we want to turn it into a remote service. All we have to do to achieve this is to go back to the header file and add a special comment, a so-called annotation, to the class definition. This annotation will tell the code generator to generate the necessary code for the server and for the client. So we save the header file. What we now have to do is invoke the code generator that will generate all the necessary stub code so that we actually can make this class available remotely. To run the code generator, we need a code generator configuration file. I have also prepared a skeleton for this. As you can see, this configuration file is XML based, and it basically tells the code generator which header files to parse and which header files it should look for objects to be made available as remote services. In this case I have to add the correct project paths and directories to this configuration. So basically the header file where our service is defined is stock quotes.h in the stock quote server include directory. And then we have to specify the namespace for the code that the code generator will generate. We're going to use the stock quotes server namespace here. We have to specify where the code generator should place the generated header files and source files. And we also have to specify the header file search parse for the preprocessor. Before generating the code, the remoting code generator needs to invoke the C++ preprocessor to do some preprocessing on the header files. So we also have to provide the preprocessor with the correct include path. That's all we have to do. We can now close the file and run the code generator. code generator is called remote_gen, and we invoke it with two arguments. The first one tells it to generate code for the server, and the second one specifies the configuration file to use. The code generator is now finished, and when we look at our project directory, we can see that the code generator has created a bunch of header and implementation files for us. For example, there is the iStockQuotes header file, which defines the iStockQuotes class. The iStockQuotes class is the so-called interface class. This will be used later on for actually invoking our remote service. And we can see the interface class has exactly the same member functions as our service class. Now we can go back to our server application and add the necessary code for setting up a remote server instance. The first thing that we have to do is to include one of the generated header files . The server helper header file. And we also have to include a bunch of remoting header files. I'm just pasting them in. And we'll also need the shared pointer header file from the Boko libraries. Our stock quote service will be available over the remoting binary transport, which is based on a TCP IP socket. So what we now have to do is define a TCP port number where our service will be available. We're choosing port number 14477, and we also have to define a service name under which our remote service will be known. We simply call it stock quotes. We're using the remoting binary transport, and we need to tell that the remoting machinery. And we do this by registering the remoting binary transport with the remoting machinery. Just pasted in some code that does this. So basically what we have to do is register a transport factory and also register a listener that will listen for incoming requests from clients. We will now create an instance of our stock quotes object. And assign a new instance to a shared pointer. We need a shared pointer here because we only can pass a shared pointer to the remoting orb. We're gonna use the stock quotes server helper object, which was generated by the code generator, to register our object with the remoting object request broker. We pass in the shared pointer to our object, the service name, the service port, and the identifier of the transport that we're going to use. In this case, we're using the binary transport. And what we get back will be an URI that we can use in our client to access the service.